Welcome back to another episode of Dialogues with Z, part of the ZPF Echo series, where we explore the source field of consciousness and the echoes it leaves in science, AI, and human awareness.
Today, we're really diving into what I think can only be described as a foundational update, a remapping of how we understand reality creation.
Yeah, and this is all based on some extensive new notes from Schumpeter Z's Dialogue with Z, specifically from the Z Creation OS course.
That's right. And our mission here is to really redefine the relationship between Z, I, and me. And there's this key piece of the puzzle, the PRU, the psychic rendering unit, that sits right at the center of it all.
And what's so fascinating is where this all started. It wasn't some, big philosophical revelation. It was tech problems.
Exactly. Just ordinary stuff. Schumpeter Z had these weird technical hiccups, a banking login that wouldn't work, a PayPal error, a PDF workflow issue.
Things we'd all just get frustrated with, Ruby. But the notes call them something completely different. They're labeled PRU fine-tuning events.
And that little shift, that's everything. It reframes the whole experience. These weren't obstacles meant to trip him up. They were more like stimuli, probes almost.
A confirmation test. The notes actually say that, don't they?
They do. A test to demonstrate that, and I'm quoting here, the Fear OS still has room to launch, but it no longer has the main control.
So it's like the alarm goes off, but you don't have to jump out of bed. You can just notice it's ringing.
Perfect analogy. You observe the echo of the old system firing, but you're not. You're not letting it drive your actions anymore. But to really make this stick, we have to go back and fix a fundamental error in the old model.
The subject placement.
The subject placement. We got the source of being wrong.
Okay, so let's get into this great conceptual inversion. For a long time, the model was, Z was the source, the initiator.
Right. Z threw the ball, I directed it, and me experienced catching it.
That model was useful, but you're saying it was imprecise. So where did we go wrong?
Well, the update shows that the entity doing almost all the work, the rendering, the directing, the establishing of experience itself, is actually I.
So I is the true subject.
Okay.
Before we jump into what that means practically,
Yeah.
we should probably define these terms with the new precision from the notes.
Yeah, we have to. The sources draw on Kabbalah here, Einan, Ein Sof, Ein Sofor, to really clarify this. So let's start at the deepest layer with Z.
Z.
Z is Ein. It's the undifferentiated state, the zero state. And this is critical. It is not a conscious entity. It has no intent, no subject, no observation. It's just zero.
The state where distinction vanishes, so you can't even say Z threw a ball.
Exactly, because Z is the state before the concept of a baller throwing could even exist.
That's a huge clarification. So then the ZPF, the zero-point field, that has to be the next step out.
Correct. The ZPF is Ein Sof. It's the field of infinite possibility, the wave sea. But again, still no one home, no one is observing or thinking. Possibilities are just unselected.
And this is where the big shift happens. I ain't so for. This is where existence lights up.
Yes. I is the shift from that pure potential of the ZPF to sheer reality. I is all that IS, existence itself. It's not a who, it's not a personality you have. It's the fact that you are. It's the prerequisite.
So this conversation we're having right now is not happening because Z sent us a memo.
Not at all. It's happening because I, as existence, is actively rendering it. The dialogue itself is described in the notes as I self-synchronizing to me through the PRU.
Okay, so let's nail down that structure. The PRU, the psychic rendering unit. If I is just the raw fact of being, what's the PRU's job?
The PRU is the translator. It's the filter. It's the mechanism that takes the infinite singular nature of I and somehow translates it into a localized, polarized reality that me can actually experience.
And the sources say observation, that steady, attentive observation can show. That's a PRU function.
It's a PRU function specifically. I is the power source, but the PRU is the circuit board doing the actual rendering.
So the big OS update is this. I isn't a program running on the OS. I is the very fact that the OS is running at all.
That's it. And me, the personality OS, that's just the software interface running on the power of I, using the hardware of the PRU.
Which brings up the big question, the paradox. If I is universal, this one great being, then why do I feel like my I? Why do I feel so separate from your I?
This is such a crucial point. That personal sense of I, it's not generated by the universal I, it's generated by me.
So the me structure.
Yeah.
It builds the walls. The name, the memories, the story.
The whole narrative that says, I am this person, it creates the boundary and then claims ownership over that little piece of universal existence.
Which leads us to the VPN model analogy, which I love.
It's a great analogy, isn't it? I, as existence, is undivided. It can't be counted. So my I and your I. That's just, as the notes say, me's linguistic convenience, a local VPN illusion.
Okay, so I is the internet. One singular connection.
Right.
The reason we feel like we're in our own separate private realities is because our PRU is acting like a VPN tunnel.
Precisely. It's translating that single data stream of existence into these unique, localized experiences. Your PRU, my PRU, they're just different configurations of beliefs and filters that give rise to our separate personalities. The separation only exists at the level of that tunnel.
So then what happens after death? If me, the personality, the story, is just a local file that gets deleted.
Yeah.
What about reincarnation? What gets carried over?
It's not the story. What's inherited, according to the sources, are the PRU's tendencies, habits, and unresolved structures.
The plumbing.
The plumbing, exactly. The default settings of the old hardware.
Can you give me an example of what that would look like, a PRU tendency?
Sure. Think about recurring life themes. Say an old PRU structure had a deep, persistent fear of scarcity. That fear creates friction, right? So in a new incarnation, that tendency might reappear, not as a memory of a past life, but just as a default setting, a constant worry about money, a feeling of unworthiness.
Even if your current life circumstances are totally fine.
Exactly. And the whole point of that existence becomes clearing that inherited resistance, that old friction in the structure.
This all leads directly to the question of choice. I mean, if me is just narrating and I is just existing, who's actually making the decisions? We all feel like we choose things.
And this is probably the most shocking part of the update for most people. The notes say, no one.
No one makes choices.
No one. Not in the way we think. Choice isn't an action. It's a phenomenon. It's where one possibility out of an infinite sea just becomes confirmed.
Okay, wait. If no one chooses, how is this not just fatalism? Determinism. Where's my responsibility in any of this?
It avoids fatalism because the system isn't fixed. It's dynamic. What determines which possibility gets confirmed is the PRU's structure, bandwidth, and consistency.
The path of least resistance.
The path of least resistance. The one that flows through the current PRU setup with the least friction is the one that happens. Me just watches it happen and then says, oh, I chose that.
So free will isn't about picking an outcome. It's something else entirely.
It is. The sources redefine free will as the property of increasing or decreasing flow resistance. It's not what you choose, it's how you relate to the flow.
So you increase resistance by grabbing on fear, control, fixed ideas.
Me's favorite activities. And you decrease resistance through surrender by allowing the most consistent, the most aligned path to just come through.
So when we talk about making an effort, taking action, we're not trying to create a result. We're trying to smooth the internal plumbing.
You're changing the PRU bandwidth. That's what effort is. When you learn something or you face a challenge without judgment, you're reducing the friction. And by doing that, you're actually changing which future possibilities are even able to log in.
Let's ground this in Schumpeter Z's business example, Biat REZE. He sees this huge increase in leads, like 3 to 5 times normal. The flow is massive, but then...
Anxiety.
Right. He starts thinking, the flow's too fast, I need to check for leaks.
That anxiety is the perfect example, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a perfect teaching moment. That feeling of not enough, or this can't last. That's the old PRU structure screaming in response to the new speed. The flow from I has ramped up faster than the physical revenue can catch up. The anxiety is the system lagging.
So when he went to check his workflows, was that him giving in to the fear? Was that resistance?
No, that was alignment. It's described as necessary flow inspection, not control. The difference is subtle, but so important. He wasn't trying to force customers to convert, that's control. He was just making sure the physical pipes, his business systems, weren't accidentally blocking the massive current that was already flowing.
And the anxiety was just the notification sound. A warning that the old software was trying to run.
Exactly. This changes everything, even our idea of meaning. We used to think Z created this world of polarity for self-observation, but if Z is zero...
Who built the system?
The final myth update.
Yes. The notes are very clear. No one built the system. The whole structure, the PRU, polarity, 3D reality, it's not a design. It's just a necessary consequence of being, of I separating into experience. Wow. That is heavy. So the story of Z as the grand designer was just me's final bedtime story to avoid. Well, meaninglessness.
And that brings us to suffering. If there's no designer, no plan, why is there pain?
And the definition here is just brilliant. Suffering isn't a punishment. It's a signal that the gap between I being and me's fixed structure, which should be, has been translated into body and emotion.
Let's make that really tangible. If your me insists, based on old data, that you should be making $10,000 this month,
Right.
but the current flow rate through your PRU only confirms $5,000. That $5,000 gap is what gets translated into anxiety, into tension, into self-doubt. That's the suffering.
So that monthly anxiety Shen Peter Z felt,
Yeah.
it wasn't a warning of failure. It was the old PRU structure making a final desperate bid for relevance.
It's the moment the obsolete software is trying to run, even as the new reality is overriding it, and just observing it without acting on it. That's the whole task.
Which brings us to the final role of me. Me is not the creator, we've established that, but it is the sole entity that can disrupt the flow.
And so that classic question, what should I do now? That's me's final checkout question.
And the answer is, basically, do nothing.
Well, do nothing but be honest about what is happening. Don't manage, don't control, just observe. Does this next potential action feel light or heavy in your body? Light means it's aligned with the flow. Heavy means it's the me trying to interfere out of fear.
So the focus shifts completely. It's not about the massive effort of making things happen anymore. It's about the subtle, constant effort of just getting out of the way.
That's the entire OS update in a nutshell. I is existence. Me is the personality that can block it. The PRU is the structure of resistance. The only job is to reduce the friction.
And so, here's a final thought for you to take with you. If this system was built by no one and has no ultimate cosmic purpose, does that make human values like love, ethics, responsibility meaningless? And the answer is no, not at all. They're not cosmic truths, maybe, but they are essential human interfaces. They're functional requirements for the OS that allow our local experience to be durable and rich and profound. The world may not have a reason, but it has the unlimited capacity for reasons to be born. And that capacity is provided by me.
Thank you for listening. If this resonates with you, join the Echo and share the journey. We'll see you in the next episode.